Hello everyone. Now we will start one more session. Actually, we are going to prove this theorem. Every regular lintel of space is normal, which is a really important theorem in this section of separation axioms and compactness. So this theorem is actually give the idea of lintel of spaces also have some separation axioms. So in general, regularity doesn't imply normality, and normality doesn't imply regularity. Okay, but this theorem says that when a space is regular plus lintel of, then that will be normal. Okay, when a space is regular and lintel of, then it will be normal. So how will prove this theorem? So I take let X to be a regular lintel of space. We want to prove that it is normal. What is a normal space? In a normal space, we can separate two disjoint closed sets by mutually disjoint open sets. So for that, I consider two disjoint closed sets in capital X. So let's see, DB disjoint closed sets in capital X. So C intersection D will be empty, which implies C will be contained in X minus D, and I can say D will be contained in X minus C. Okay. Then if we take a point, if X belongs to C, then that X not belongs to D, right? Because C intersection D equal to empty. When you take a point in C, then that can't belongs to D. When it is not belongs to D means X is belongs to X minus D. It's complement, right? And we have C and D are closed set. Then their complement X minus D and X minus C are open sets, right? Since C is closed or D is closed, X minus D is open set containing the point X. So we get a point X in C and an open set containing that point. Then by equivalence conditions of normality, suppose we have a regular space, and if we have a point X and a open set G containing that point, then there will exist a open set and a closed set, right? There will exist an open set H such that actually H will be contained in G, or in particular I can say H closure is contained in G. So we have a result that when a point X and an open set G containing that point exists in a regular space, then in between them there will exist an open set H such that H closure is contained in G. So by that result, since X is a point and X minus D is an open set containing that point in a regular space, since X is regular, there exists an open set, I take it as some UX, okay? Corresponding to this X, this will varying. Open set UX such that X belongs to that H, that means X belongs to UX and its closure is contained in G, where G is X minus D. So we get for any point X in C, we will have an open set UX such that X belongs to UX and UX closure is contained in X minus D. Okay. Similarly, if you consider some Y belongs to D, then Y cannot be belongs to C because C intersection D is empty. So Y will be belongs to X minus its complement. And you know C is a closed set, therefore x minus C will be an open set. So which implies x minus C is an open set containing the point, open set containing the point y, right? So again by the same theorem or same result, since x is regular, since x is again regular, comma, there exists open set. I take some Vy because corresponding to this y it will varying, right? So there exists a open set Vy such that y belongs to that Vy, comma, Vy closure is contained in G where G is x minus C, okay? So we get these two results. Suppose this is 1 and 2. So that we have a space X which is regular and Lindelof. Then if you consider a set C, then corresponding to any point X in C, we will have an open set Ux, right? We will have an open set Ux, and corresponding to any point Y in D, we will have another open set Vy. Okay, so if you are varying, we get number of open sets in D and number of open sets Ux's in C. So you consider the collection Ux's. Collection Ux such that X varying over C. Clearly that will be open set in C. So therefore this collection can cover C, right? Then and consider the collection Vy y varying over D. Okay, then it is nothing but open sets in D. So union of that open sets will form an open cover for D, right? So consider these two collection, comma, they form open covers for C and D respectively. Okay, so this collection and this collection will be open covers of C and D respectively. And what about C and D? You know, C and D are disjoint closed sets. And C and D are closed sets in the Lindelof space. Our whole space exists, the entire space exists Lindelof. And we have a result that every closed subset of a Lindelof space is Lindelof. We have every closed subset of Lindelof space is Lindelof. Therefore, C and D are Lindelof. Okay, C and D are Lindelof because they are closed subset of the entire space, Lindelof space capital X. Right. Now, when a set is Lindelof and we have an open cover for that set, then clearly by definition of Lindelofness, there will exist a countable subcover for this collection. Right. So I write here, since C and D are Lindelof, comma, these open covers have countable subcover for C and D. So that means I can choose finite many members from this collection to cover C and finitely many members from this collection to cover D. So I take Ux1, Ux2, etc. Uxn be the open sets in this collection whose union can cover C, and Vy1, Vy2, etc. Vym is a finite number of open sets in this collection and whose union can cover D. Okay. So since they are Lindelof, we have it has countable subcover. So I take let Ux1, Ux2, or in general I write U1, U2. Okay, U1, U2, etc. be, and V1, V2, etc. be. So countable subcovers of C and D of the corresponding open covers. Okay. Now for every n, comma, we define let Gn equal to a new set Gn equal to Un minus union I equal to 1 to n Vi closure. Vi means actually Vyi, okay, and Hn equal to Vn minus union I equal to 1 to n Ui closure. So we define two sets Gn and Hn for every n. Okay. Now we claim that claim 1, I will prove that Gn and Hn are open. Okay, Gn and Hn are open. So how will you prove this? Since each Vyi, or I represent that as Vi, so each Vi is open, comma, Vi closure is actually closed, right? Vi closure is closed. And you know, finite union of closed sets is closed. And finite union of closed sets is finite union of closed sets is closed. Okay. Therefore, union I equal to 1 to n, Vi closure is closed. Okay. Then its complement will be open. So when it is closed, its complement is open. That means I write union I equal to 1 to n Vi closure complement. So I represent raised to C, which is complement is open. Okay. You know what is A minus B? The set A minus B can be written A intersection B complement, right? Right. So UN minus this set can be written UN intersection this complement. Okay. So these sets are open sets. And what is UN? U1, U2, etc. are open sets because it is a countable subcover for Z. So these are open sets. Then every UN will be open set, right? So this complement is open and UN is open for every n implies UN intersection union I equal to 1 to n Vi closure complement is open. So what is this? A intersection B complement is nothing but A minus B. So this can be written UN minus union I equal to 1 to n Vi closure is open. So this is nothing but our Gn. So Gn is open. This is true for every n equal to 1, 2, 3, etc. So every Gn is open. In a similar way, we can prove that Hn is open. Why? Same condition, closure of a set is always closed, therefore Ui closure is a closed set, and finite union of closed set is again closed, therefore union I equal to 1 to n Ui closure is closed, then its complement will be open. Okay, I will write here. So that we have each Ui closure is closed, therefore its finite union of closed set is closed, then its complement will be open, and you know each Vn is open, therefore Vn intersection union I equal to 1 to n Ui closure complement is open because finite intersection of open set is open. So we get this is open, and this is we define that Hn, which implies Hn is open for every n. Okay, n equal to 1, 2, 3, etc. Natural numbers. So we get Gn and Hn are open sets for any n. Now using these two Gn's and Hns, I define next step, define G equal to union n equal to 1 to infinity Gn and H equal to union n equal to 1 to infinity Hn. Okay, then Gn's are open, countable union of open sets is open, therefore G and H will be open, which implies G and H are open sets. Okay. Now we claim that these G and H are disjoint. G intersection H is equal to empty. So to prove this, I take if G intersection H is non-empty, then there exists an element X belongs to G intersection H, which implies X belongs to G and X belongs to H, right? So which implies X belongs to G means X belongs to union n equal to 1 to infinity Gn, and X belongs to H means X belongs to union n equal to 1 to infinity Hn. So X belongs to this union means X belongs to Gn for some n, for some, I choose n, okay, for some m, and X belongs to Hn for some n. Okay. Now choose m is less than or equal to n, or assume that m is less than or equal to n. So which implies x belongs to GM, which implies when x belongs to GM, then x belongs to UM, which implies x belongs to UM, because we have GM equal to, I will write x belongs to GM. GM means UM minus union n equal to 1 to union I equal to 1 to n VI closure. This was our GM. Okay, VI closure. So which means x belongs to UM, but x not belongs to union I equal to 1 to n VI closure. Okay. When x not belongs to this closure, union means x not belongs to any of this VI closure, which means x not belongs to VI closure for any I. Okay. Now we have x belongs to Hn. Since x belongs to Hn, which implies x belongs to, by definition, Hn is Vn minus union I equal to 1 to n Ui closure. Okay. So which implies x belongs to Vn, but x not belongs to union I equal to 1 to n Ui closure. A minus b എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ meaning ഇല്ലെൻ്റെ b ഇല്ല, അതാണ് എഴുതിയിട്ടുള്ളത് കേട്ടോ. So which implies x not belongs to, when m is less than or equal to n and x not belongs to this union means x not belongs to union I equal to 1 to m Ui closure also. Right? So which implies x not belongs to union I equal to 1 to m Ui closure. Okay. Which implies x not belongs to Ui closure for any I. For any I. Okay. But we have x, when x belongs to GM, we have x belongs to UM. When x belongs to UM, then x belongs to UM closure also, because every set is contained in its closure, right? Since x belongs to, I will write here, since x belongs to UM and every set is contained in its closure, so UM will be contained in UM closure. So which implies x belongs to UM closure also. Right? So but if you consider x belongs to Hn, then we get x not belongs to a closure for any I. So which is a contradiction. It is not possible. Which means x cannot belongs to G intersection H, which implies G intersection H is equal to empty, which implies G and H are disjoint. And already proved that G and H are open sets. Therefore, G and H are disjoint open sets. Okay. We want to prove that our set capital X is normal. For that, we consider two disjoint open sets C and D. Now we get two disjoint open sets G and H. Next, we claim that our disjoint closed set C is contained in G and D is contained in H. Then our space will be normal. Okay. If you prove the claim, our space will be normal. So I take a point, let x is a point in C, which implies x belongs to, what is C? The collection U1, U2, etc. is a countable subcover for C. That means C is contained in union I equal to 1 to infinity Ui. This is a countable union by the Lindelof's property. So when x belongs to C, x must belongs to this union I equal to 1 to infinity Ui. So which implies x belongs to union means x belongs to Ui for some I. Okay, for some I. And we have, by using the property of regularity, we have for every n, Vn closure is contained in x minus C. Vy closure is contained in x minus C, or in particular Vyn is taken as Vn, okay. Then Vn closure will be contained in x minus B. This is true for every n, right? So which implies, so when x belongs to C means x cannot be belongs to x minus C. When x not belongs to x minus C, x cannot belongs to Vn closure for any n, right? X സിയിലാണുള്ളത്, സിയിലുള്ള എക്സിന് ഒരിക്കലും എക്സ് മൈനസ് സിയിൽ വരില്ല. എക്സ് മൈനസ് സിയുടെ ഉള്ളിലാണ് വി എൻ ക്ലോഷറുകൾ ഉള്ളത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് വി എൻ ക്ലോഷറിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ നമുക്ക് എക്സ് വരാനായിട്ട് കഴിയില്ല. സോ വിച്ച് ഇംപ്ലൈസ് എക്സ് കനോട്ട് ബി ബിലോങ്സ് ടു വി എൻ ക്ലോഷർ ഫോർ എവറി എൻ. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു വി എൻ ക്ലോഷറിലും എക്സ് വരുന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ അവരുടെ യൂണിയനിൽ ഉണ്ടാവില്ലല്ലോ. സോ ഐ ക്യാൻ റൈറ്റ് എക്സ് കനോട്ട് ബി ബിലോങ്സ് ടു യൂണിയൻ ഐ ഈക്വൽ ടു 1 to n വി ഐ ക്ലോഷർ. So when it is not belongs to Vi closure, and we already have x belongs to ui for some I, so x belongs to this set and x not belongs to this set, means it belongs to A and not belongs to B, means it belongs to A minus B, right? So I can write x belongs to ui minus union I equal to 1 to n Vi closure. And what is this? This is GI, formula of GI. So which implies x belongs to GI for some I. So whatever this I, that will be here for some I. So when x belongs to GI for some I, then x belongs to union I equal to 1 to infinity GI, and it is denoted by our G. So x belongs to G. When x belongs to C, then that x also belongs to G. Therefore, C will be contained in G. C will be contained in G. Similarly, we can prove that D is contained in H. So for that, I will prove here. So I take let, for proving D is contained in H, I take let Y belongs to D. Then when Y belongs to D means Y belongs to, what is the definition? V1, V2, etc. Since D is a lindel of space, it has a countable subcover, and that countable subcover is denoted by V1, V2, etc. Right? Since D is contained in union I equal to 1 to infinity Vi's, because V1, V2, etc. is a countable subcover for D. So when Y belongs to D, Y must be belongs to this union I equal to 1 to infinity Vi. So which implies Y belongs to Vi for some I. Okay. Now for every n we have un closure is contained in x minus D. By the regularity property, we already written in the previous page. Okay, so we have un closure is contained in x minus D. So which implies y belongs to Vi and y belongs to D. When y belongs to D, y cannot be belongs to x minus D. അപ്പോൾ x minus D ഇല്ലാത്തത് കൊണ്ട്, so that y cannot be belongs to un closure for every n. So which implies y cannot belongs to un closure for every n. Which implies y cannot be belongs to union I equal to 1 to n ui closure. ഒരു യു എൻ ക്ലോഷറിലും വരില്ല എങ്കിൽ യൂണിയനിലും വരില്ല. സോ വിച്ച് ഇംപ്ലൈസ് y belongs to Vi and y not belongs to this, means y belongs to the A minus B, that is Vi minus this union. Vi minus union I equal to 1 to n ui closure, and by definition this is Hi. So y belongs to Hi for some I. So which means y belongs to Hi means y belongs to union I equal to 1 to infinity Hi, which implies y belongs to, this is denoted by H. So when y belongs to D, we have y in H, that is D is contained in H. So what we have proved that if you consider any two disjoint closed set C and D, then there will exist disjoint open sets U and G and H such that C contained in G, D contained in H. That means in a regular lindel of space, if you consider a closed set C and closed set D, they are disjoint, then there exists open set G and H such that G and H are disjoint and C is contained in G, D is contained in H, which implies our space X is normal. So note that every regular lindel of space is normal. Every regular lindel of space is normal. It is very important theorem. Don't miss it. So we will discuss the corollaries of the previous theorem. Corollary 1, every second countable regular space is normal. That is, regularity doesn't implies normality. But when you add the lindel of condition together with regularity, that will leads to normality. And corollary says that when a space is regular and second countable, that means it has a countable base. Okay, second countable, then it will be normal. Okay, so how will you prove this? We know every lindel of space is second countable. Every lindel of space is second countable. Sorry, every lindel of space, sorry, every second countable space is lindel of, second countability always implies lindel ofness. So that when you have a second countable regular space, second countability implies lindel ofness, means that will be regular plus lindel of, right? So let x2 be regular plus second countable. Okay, second countable. which implies that is regular plus second countability always implies Lindelofness. So that will be regular plus Lindelof. Then by previous theorem, a space is regular and Lindelof, then it will be normal. So that this corollary will be proved. Okay. Next is every compact Hausdorff space is T4. Every compact Hausdorff space is T4. So let X2 be compact Hausdorff. X2 topological space X2 be compact and Hausdorff. Hausdorff means it is T2. Okay. Compact and T2. We need to prove that it is T4. Okay. T4 means it is regular, normal and T1. Right. Okay. In the previous section, we proved that every compact Hausdorff space is regular. Okay. We have compact plus T2 is always implies regularity, regular. So when a space is compact and T2, it will be regular, right? And you know every T2 space is T1 because T2 axiom always implies T1. So T2 always implies, since T2 implies T1, we get X2 is regular, and you know compactness is always implies Lindelofness because every open cover has a finite subcover means every open cover will have a countable subcover too. So and compactness always implies Lindelofness. The converse may not be true, okay? Lindelofness. So X2 will be regular and Lindelof. Then by previous theorem, when a space is regular and Lindelof, then it is normal. Then X2 is normal. So X2 is normal and X2 is T1, which together implies our topological space is T4. So compact Hausdorff space is also T4. When you want to prove every compact Hausdorff space is T4, we want to prove the previous theorem. That is every regular compact regular, right? Every regular Lindelof space is normal.